Hey everyone, and welcome to my Procreate demo for the piece I call Mr. J. Obviously Mr. J is a reference to the nickname for the Joker. I just felt like drawing the Joker because he's one of my son's favorite characters. As you see, the constant theme in me doing all of these pieces are what my kid is into. This started as a pencil drawing because somebody asked if I would do a pencil drawing from beginning to end, but then I sort of wasn't feeling it as I was actually in the middle of working on it. So it starts as a pencil sketch, so you can see the entire sketch process. I did not know what I was going to draw initially when I did like the first sketches, and then it quickly became the Joker, as you can see by me throwing that bow on there and the corsage. I've drawn Joker a bunch. I wanted to see if I could figure out like some new things to do with him. The main thing I wanted to do is I wanted to give him a slightly stronger frame than normal. And I wanted to not make his nose so huge. I usually do like a big Ivan the Terrible from Giant Robo style nose when I do Joker, which I really like doing, but I just wanted to take it somewhere different. And I want to do this big sort of poofy flying away hair thing. So, and then when I started doing the sketch, I did that slightly off-kilter smile where his lower lip was jutting a little bit differently. And that I thought was going to be something that would just be fun to capture. So here you can see I'm starting to try and make it more of a tight pencil drawing, and then I was going to go in and make it tighter still. But I wasn't really feeling it. So you'll see here I start to ink, and then I also wasn't feeling it. And in the middle of me working on this, I was jumping through like 4 or 5 pieces. I was really sort of all over the place when I was working on this. So you'll see that get killed, and then I start like another one, and then another one, and then finally you'll see the one that I actually settle on and start working with. I did this with the same brush pen that I did the last piece, the one called Old One Eye. That one I used the brush pen to ink it, and that's what I end up using here too. Once you see me finally settle on the version that I go with, which this I believe is not it either. I think I go through one more. Yeah, this was a really quick one that I did while I was watching a movie, and I hated it. So then I did like yet another pass, and things weren't clicking, and then finally this I believe is the pass where things started clicking for me. So it's sort of interesting to see, because I know a lot of people that are starting in art don't see like the mess ups that much. There you got to see me basically have like 5 false starts before I really did what I wanted to do with this. In reality, a lot of me finally settling on this was actually taking the time. Sometimes I think you think something is going to be a quick hit in terms of just getting it done quickly and getting it out the door, and then it's not, and you realize you need to actually put more work and concentration into it, which is what happened here. So once I finally decided I was going to hunker down and work on this piece, that's when I finally got the version out of it that I ended up liking. By the way, those other pieces that I mentioned, those will come out in future videos as well, as all of them had some sort of merit that I wanted to keep with. So I didn't know what I was going to do with the finished quality of this once I started inking it, but I had a pretty good idea that I was just going to do fast colors. Usually when I do something this inked, I don't render it that much. I used to do that back in the day, but I've grown out of liking that look. So once I get to the colors, you'll see they're just basically flat. When I posted this picture online, it wasn't as off-center in the layout. I made it more of like a square. That was just for easy posting. I really always wanted it to be like this, where it's a little bit off-center. The thing you saw a second ago where his face got duplicated, that was me just replicating a section of his eye and then erasing away, so I had to duplicate the entire layer and then start tweaking the eye. I just wanted consistency, so I wanted to make sure that part was duplicated. Now, one thing, as I mentioned before, that you guys don't get to see in these videos is my layer setup. Every time I'm sort of doing a new section of the face, even with inking, I create a new layer and do it just to make sure that I have extreme editing capability. And then I'll go ahead and collapse them all into one layer. So like as you can see here with the hair, it's all on its own layer. It's lowered in opacity so that I can see the other lines for editing. And this is me using one of, I believe, the artistic brushes. It's like the dry sort of, it's supposed to look like a cruddy brush, but it ended up working out really well for doing this sort of float away hair thing that I wanted to do. So now we're back to the standard brush pen, which again, one of the interesting things with this brush pen is you have to pull towards yourself or I should say you pull in the direction of thin to thick as opposed to flicking away from thick to thin. So that's just something that you always have to keep in mind when you're working with this pen. So right there I just used the watercolor brush. You can go back and re-watch that. I know it was a little bit on the quick side. And I just did big splotch and then erase away in the center, smaller splotches, erase away in the center, smaller splotches, to make that little thing. And then I went back in with the brush pen and just added a couple of extra details in there. You can see when I'm doing various things, you can see me drawing over and overlapping things, then I go back through and erase it after the fact. Alright, so now I'm doing the flattening process. For this, I just used the normal brush, the normal round airbrush brush, and started laying it all in. I sort of knew what I wanted to do with the hair. Was I was going to go back in and do that brushy brush for the neon green, and then I recolored the lines that darker green. So I always kept those on their own layer, and I did the exact same thing with the corsage. That's why the lines on that have that look to them. I added a little bit of blush in the nose and stuff. I just think that looks good on Joker. And then what you saw right there was me creating a shape of the entire form so that I could use it for deleting and erasing. So I went in and put in the core shadow. And then I went in here and I'm trying out tons of different dot brushes because I knew I wanted to have like a dot pattern to the way the shadow looked. And it took me a while to really find the one that I liked. And then here's some texture work over the top and then some blur work. And then I duplicated all of the white and then erased away from it and then blurred it so I could get that bloom effect over the entire thing. So now here I reposted that entire section so that you could see it again because I knew that it went by pretty quickly. So this is that same sequence over again. So you can see me just doing some little tweaks to that core shadow so that I could make sure that it looked nice. And then this is me using that core shadow as a selection to then put in these dot patterns. So there's the bloom you can see, and then some tweaks to the hairline just to make it a little bit darker, and then the texture over the top of it, and then blurring the entire thing and setting that to overlay so it gets like a little bit, just a little extra punch. I think I lowered the opacity on that quite a bit too. So this was a slightly different piece than normal, so I hope you dig the methods that were used in this one. Thanks for watching. And if you're looking for me on the internet, these are the places where you can find me.